The big star so far, I would think in the first half of the season, if you had to pick an MVP, certainly he would be in the discussion right there, would be Eric Thames. 2 more home runs for him. He's at 23 for the season, but he's not in the home run derby. Why?
Well, he just didn't earn his way to the All-Star game. He had a insane out-of-this-world April, and then May and June were big-time struggles for him, to the point that he needed to ask for a day or two off. Starting last week, he missed the last game of the Brewers road trip, then he was off again, the Brewers' first game at home, and he has come back from that little mental vacation. He says he badly needed that break, and he has been a different hitter. No strikeouts stands out to me in 3 games since coming back. He's got 3 homers. He's walked in all of the games. He is kind of back to being the old Eric Thames, and he said he's kind of stopped worrying and just is reacting to the baseball again as it's pitched. And that is something that he was not able to do. One factor, he said he was worrying a little bit about the All-Star game. Maybe not worrying, but at least it was on his mind. He was wondering if he had done enough to go and whether his struggle was going to cost him a chance and all that kind of stuff. And I asked him, I said, well, did they ask you about the home run derby? Because sometimes non-All-Stars will participate in that. And he says that he did not get that call from MLB. And he says even if he had, he probably would have said no. He did it in Korea, and he's one of those guys that it really messed up for a couple of weeks, and he didn't really enjoy the experience because of that. So I think he would have taken a pass. But, the good news for the Brewers, not an All-Star, but swinging a pretty good bat again in a small sample.
You mentioned the 2-day mental break that he took. Was that because he wanted it, or Craig Counsell, for example, said, no, maybe you need to sit out a couple of days?
Yes and yes. But the way we understand it is Eric Thames actually went in there and said he needed it. And Craig Counsell saw that as a positive. He wants his guys. Every manager talks about having an open door, and they want players to come in and say, when they need something, including a day off. Very rarely a player will actually take advantage of that. No one wants to say, I'm struggling. Eric Thames got to a point where he went in and said, I need a day. And I thought that was sort of another interesting wrinkle in the story of his fascinating season. He got to the point where he was just grinding so hard in every game. Sometimes it just takes a day or two to unplug. And I think for us laymen, this always comes to my mind. I think, well, what is a day or two different? What difference does that make? It seems like it would take more time than that. But I think these players their cycle of life is such that even one day out of the lineup, even if you pinch hit in the 6th inning, it just makes a huge difference in the way your brain is functioning in that period. And that's what he needed. Hit the reset button. He had, I think, 17 strikeouts and 41 at-bats going into that stretch or into that 2-day break. He just needed a day to unplug, and that's what he got.